Hey there friends, we'll get started here in just about 30 seconds. I don't think my YouTube live chat is working. Maybe it is. Say something, please. I can't see anything. All right, where are you tuning in from? Thanks for the likes and the shares. We're going to look over the broader market. We're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to do some trade review from the weekend. Played some bounce trades in a couple of names. Yeah, I don't know what's up with YouTube here, but it's not showing me what it should, but we're going to do it anyway. We'll see if it fixes itself. All right. Shrinking face. NASDAQ. So, we have a bounce underway. We started the bounce to end last week in the broader market. This bounce is not surprising. We were a bit extreme to the downside. We're cooling things off. The question that we have for the week, can bulls bounce significantly enough to shape up daily trend changes in their favor? And right now, we're not following through. So if we look at QQQ, we can see it is pretty much a daily inside bar. We're not really getting much information. Essentially, we had the bounce Thursday into Friday. Now we're trading sideways. It's a bit of a stutter step. There's a tug of war going on. There's been a lot of back and forth. But if we do form a daily inside bar, which is shaping up, it's going to be up to the bulls to break it bullish tomorrow to keep this daily bounce going. So that's going to be key. The bulls are making an attempt here into the end of the day. It's a little 15-minute bull flag attempt, and you can see we've got high of the day, lower high. We broke one resistance level, but did not break the second, pretty much a double top. So if these bulls can pull off a 15-minute bull flag into a new high of the day, we will be approaching the high of this bounce. And that will give the bulls a little bit of life to potentially shape up continued bounce follow through. And we do need more follow through because, again, if we're going to change the daily trend, we need to see follow through. We will top out eventually, and then we'll look for a daily higher low to be a result of that bounce. But we need more follow through because where we stand right now, it is a potential daily bear flag still. So burden on bulls to get this bounce going a bit further. What I'm watching on the futures chart for the NASDAQ is a 12-hour inverse head and shoulders. And if you've been trading Bitcoin, you know how Bitcoin bounced. It bounced Thursday and Friday. It formed a 12-hour higher low on Saturday, and then it broke resistance, granted zero follow through, but it set a 12-hour higher low on its consolidation, which is what the NASDAQ is attempting to do here with the little inverse head and shoulders setup. So leaving the door open here, we have 2 hours left in the day, leaving the door open for the bulls to try and prove something here as this 15-minute bull flag attempts to shape up. So with that, Bitcoin daily consolidation is already shaping up. It's a much different look. And if we look at what Bitcoin has done since the futures opened, we have a very bearish correlation with the broader market since the futures opened. So that's right here. And all we've done is drop. And if we look at the NASDAQ, when it opened, yeah, it's been dropping as well, but it's a potential 4-hour bull flag, while Bitcoin is certainly not. So it's essentially the way that I'm viewing how this has shaped up. I am viewing this as the broader market and Bitcoin bounced together Thursday, Friday. Bitcoin saw some follow through over the weekend, not much. And then now Bitcoin is dropping back down while the broader market is fairly flat. And so it's essentially Bitcoin's coming back down to where we were when we closed the markets on Friday. So Bitcoin, depending on what time frame you find clarity, I like the 12-hour right now. We could say it's a 12-hour trend change with zero follow through. Absolutely. But it is still an uptrend. So we're looking at this higher low of 28.5. Anything above 28.5 is another higher low. The bulls must break 31.4 to see follow through on this bounce. I don't have a ton of clarity on the daily because you're looking at this and saying, well, did we top out here and set a little daily higher low, or have we topped out now? Whenever that's the case, I always just zoom out a little bit and condense it. This is the 2-day time frame. So again, just going from the daily to the 2-day, I find a lot more clarity on the 2-day. Say, okay, maybe I'm just scouting for a 2-day lower high to be the result of this bounce and watching to see where that ends up shaping up. So, all about the 12-hour in the short term. If the bulls get follow through of 12-hour uptrend, I'll be using the 2-day time frame to scout a lower high. And of course, if we don't break the recent high, then the top of the bounce will be set and it will be a fairly weak one. Right now, the NASDAQ is confirming, we're testing to confirm this 15-minute bull flag and just seeing how Bitcoin is responding. It's definitely responding. Just again, it's weaker because here's the high of 8:30 a.m. Actually, you know what? I take that back. We're fairly in line because we're testing the highs of 8:30 a.m. in the NASDAQ as well. So we're level. We're back to where we should be if the weekend didn't happen for Bitcoin is essentially what it boils down to. So bull break just happened. Now we're testing the high of the day on the NASDAQ. So let's see if this bull momentum can continue through the live stream to help that shift. Still testing the high of the day. I need to set a stop loss here on a couple positions in the stock world. And then we'll get back to it. So I'm going to go over now a trade that I took over the weekend. It was just a nice clear setup, posted it on Twitter as it was shaping up. And if you're not following on Twitter, do so. TheChartGuys, at TheChartGuys. So what was the setup? The setup was, all right, nice bounce, but 12-hour lower high is set. So what is the most likely scenario there? Are we going to drop another 18% while we are still oversold on the daily time frame? At that point, we were still oversold. Are we going to drop 18% from the high of this bounce and see a lower low, or are we going to set a 15-minute or a 12-hour higher low? And for me, the weekend was a factor. I know how the weekend trading has gone over the last couple of months. The volume dries up. Not every time, but more often than not, the volume dries up. We trade within a limited range, and it's essentially just waiting for markets to open up again. So I was anticipating that we would form a 12-hour higher low and a 12-hour lower high and a tightening equilibrium over the weekend. So on Saturday morning, I wake up and I check in on the market and I say, all right, well, I'm scouting 12-hour higher low bullish entries. Because if you'll recall, I did not participate in this bounce. I was sleeping when it hit and I wasn't chasing once it got started. So that was my second chance, essentially, to look for entries. And so what aligned? So again, I now have the most likely scenario for me on the longer term time frame, the 12-hour. That's crystal clear. All right. So that's my starting point. Now I zoom in and I look for details on the shorter term time frames that dictate that the 12-hour higher low is shaping up and I am correct, or the 12-hour higher low is not shaping up and I am wrong. And so the details that I look for, I looked at the hourly. At that point in time, the hourly RSI was heading towards oversold. Okay, keeping an eye out to see if hourly heads to oversold conditions. But what stood out more clearly to me was a 15-minute falling wedge. Now, I've said many times in this recent bear market, falling wedges mean much less because falling wedges are best in a bull market. But this was a scenario where a falling wedge was shaping up and it was aligning with the most likely scenario. If the most likely scenario is a 12-hour higher low, a 15-minute falling wedge breaking bull can shape up that 12-hour higher low. So on Twitter, the post was, and the timing was pretty good there, 10:41, crypto bulls scouting a 15-minute potential falling wedge on Bitcoin as many names look for 12-hour higher lows and a tightening range through the weekend. It's a pretty simplified way to say everything that I just said. So that was 10:41. We had one more drop down to the lower low with zero bear follow through, and then the bulls took off. So I was making entries as I was making that post, and this goes back to, I made a Bitcoin entry, initial scale in, and I would have entered a second position if we got to hourly oversold, and we didn't. So I only got the one fill, but the one fill was profitable pretty much right out of the gate. And I also entered DOT, and it's the first time I've ever traded DOT, and it came from this stream that I did last Friday. Someone requested DOT that I look at it. I've never traded DOT. I have no idea what they do, and I don't care what they do. I made that point on Twitter, and people try to, explain what it does, and I appreciate that. But the point was, I don't know what it does. I don't care what it does. I don't need to know what it does to still profit from it. So I chose DOT because after going through the live stream on Friday and doing a bunch of ticker requests, I saw that DOT was a lead bull. Its consolidation was healthier. Its BTC pairing was stronger. So I take my underlying Bitcoin position, and then I try and choose an altcoin that has a bullish correlation. And some people choose multiple altcoins. I just took 2 different positions. And again, it was the same plan. I would have entered a second position if further hourly consolidation took place. It didn't. So just 2 real good fills right away. And then the bounce got going. At this point, I am out half of those positions. And the reason being, I was anticipating, okay, well, if we're going to form a 12-hour lower high, I want to take some profit. Because the last time I played a bounce, I had real good entries. We saw real nice follow through, and it was a solid win. And looking for further daily bounce follow through, I tried to let the trade play out more. I took 25% of my position off. I kept 75%, and then I stopped out on that last lower low before the bottom was found. So it took a little bit more profit this time around. Again, just wanting to lock it in. And if I go back to all cash and I'm starting with a fresh, clean slate again, that's fine. But sold a bit of Bitcoin just under 31,000 resistance and sold some DOT. DOT got some real nice follow through. And I sold that half. I forget exactly where, but somewhere in the 11s. So I'm now down to half positions in both. And I'm letting this play out a little bit further. And honestly, more than these individual charts right now, my trading decisions on what I do with the second half of these positions is going to be dictated by the NASDAQ here. Can the NASDAQ confirm this 12-hour bull flag or not? If it does, I'm going to hold those positions longer. If it doesn't, I'll probably exit them for the possibility that the NASDAQ is a daily weak bounce already topping out. So today will be important, but if today's just a daily inside bar, tomorrow, stock market is going to dictate what I do with Bitcoin and DOT. Unless something significantly changes, I'm not going blind to their individual charts, but it's going to be the stock market that dictates what I do. And I have a lot of wiggle room right now because I sold half those positions. So that's just a little bit of a trade review. The takeaway is how right I was. I'm just kidding. That's not the takeaway. The takeaway is determining the longer term most likely scenario, zooming in to find the clues that tell you that it is correct or incorrect. And the falling wedge by itself, I would not have taken that trade. Absolutely not. Not in this market environment. But with the backdrop of the 12-hour, absolutely. Big difference in the individual setup on its own, the individual setup with the backdrop of the most likely scenario. So how do you determine most likely scenarios? Experience, education, studying. Fibonacci retracements significantly help. Watch our YouTube video, Google TheChartGuys Fibonacci, and that helps us determine probabilities, whether it's going to be an equilibrium, whether it's going to be a flag. That's a big help, and that helps me on the 12-hour. Bitcoin's bounce retracement size was big enough for me to scout the higher low, percentage-wise. And again, that's partly experience, because if I were measuring, I don't want to go too in depth here, but if I were measuring from way back here, it was still a potential bear flag at that point, but the percentage size of the bounce is really what it boiled down to. And it's the kind of thing where you have to see that play out 200 times. No, maybe not that much. You have to see that play out a lot if you're going to have confidence in it. You have to gain that experience. It's the same thing when the broader market bounced to end last week. We had the gap down. We grind down, we're weak, 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 no gap, no gap. There's the gap, signaling that bottom. And you have to see that happen time and time again. See the exhaustion gap down, mark a temporary bottom to have confidence. So there is no replicating. You can accelerate your learning curve, but there is no replicating time in the market in terms of how many charts you're looking at, how often you see patterns play out, and then getting extremely comfortable with them because you've seen it so often. Just like learning a new language. You got to study that vocab, memorize that vocab, and then it all eventually starts to click, and then you're fluent. The dominance chart is real tight here. what this tells me is over the weekend that altcoins and Bitcoin were pretty much doing the same thing. There wasn't any major difference in how we were moving here. If this chart breaks bear into daily consolidation, what's the most likely scenario? If the most likely relationship between Bitcoin and altcoins continues as it has the last couple of years, not every time, but more often than not, a bear break of these inside bars into daily consolidation on the dominance chart would tell us we're getting bounce follow through and altcoins are leading the way and seeing bigger significant gains than Bitcoin is. If this chart breaks bull from these inside bars, that tells me our daily lower highs are likely set. Altcoins are pulling back more significantly during that daily consolidation. So it's pretty key to watch how these break in the short term. And we should get a break, if not today, certainly tomorrow. Ethereum, daily bounce. Again, it's not impressive at this point. It is a weak daily bounce. Whether you're looking at it on the daily and saying our lower high is now set at 2164 and watching, can the bulls confirm a quick little higher low and higher high for bounce follow through? Or whether you're watching the 2-day time frame if you want to smooth it out. Either way, depends on the individual. This daily chart is a bit more clear for me than the Bitcoin one, ever so slightly. So, at this point, 12-hour, same as Bitcoin. The 12-hour right now is an uptrend with zero follow-through, but it is still holding support. If 1941 breaks, probabilities of a daily bear flag increases. If that level holds, we have a 12-hour uptrend still intact. We must see a break of 2164 to see bounce follow through. Still at the high of the day test on the NASDAQ. We're battling resistance. Bears are trying to reject the price. Again, this is going to be key in the short term here. How do we end the day? Do we end the day at the high of the day? Do we end the day with a resistance rejection fading back to the low? That's going to impact Bitcoin in the crypto space. So 12-hour higher lows key on Ethereum. ETH BTC, still very weak. I'm watching this range, which we've been within for the last 4 days. We know that we have monthly consolidation underway. We know that it's a possible monthly head and shoulders pattern. So we're watching for the possibility of breaking that level, which would be a very notable shift to us if it were to take place. That would have me not looking to play Ethereum as a bull anytime in the near future if this breaks bear. As far as the daily chart, I mean, this daily bounce on Ethereum is extremely weak as well. If you compare it to a bunch of other altcoins, we're setting a lower high every single day on ETH BTC, and you look at .BTC, that's a very big difference in how those bounces played out. And the reason this ETH BTC bounce is not taking place, in my opinion, is because we broke a key weekly support level and followed through. We had a double bottom, it failed, and that really deflated a lot of the momentum from the bulls in Ethereum. So now on to dot is seeing the potential of a daily lower high shaping up here. We did break the low of yesterday. So 12-hour EMA 12 is still resistance at this point. We have a lot of space to be scouting a daily higher low as the result of this pullback. We are in a 12-hour uptrend still, as long as the bulls hold 975. If we lose that 12-hour uptrend, this daily consolidation is going to be more significant than the bulls want to see. At this point, the bulls are hoping for a very quick little higher low into bounce continuation. And then from there, we'll zoom out and scout weekly lower highs. Tons of bullish reversal candles out there on the weekly time frame in a lot of places. And so we're watching for whether or not bulls can follow through with those. And so far, the answer is no. But if we confirm the daily trend change, the answer certainly will be yes. So again, I'm giving the bulls a chance here. The position size that I'm in at this point, having already exited half and only getting one of two possible fills, isn't big enough that I care about, 5% moves. I care about 10% moves, but a 5% move in either direction, no biggie. If we do keep dropping back on the daily, I might look for re-adding my position back on a daily higher low. But I can't possibly know in advance if I'm going to do that. It depends what the stock market is doing. It depends what the dollar is doing. It depends what Bitcoin is doing. There are all these little moving parts, all these little pieces of the puzzle where if we do see another red day and another pullback, then I don't know what those pieces of the puzzle will look like I'll have to analyze them and come to some conclusions as that's happening. But it's on the table that I may look to add for a daily high or low on DOT, knowing we have a big bullish reversal candle on the weekly and a whole bunch of volume behind it. But that remains to be seen. It's definitely on the table. DOT BTC, part of the reason that I made the entry into DOT rather than another name. Still a 12-hour uptrend. We're watching that closely. If we lose the 12-hour uptrend, we zoom out, we scout the daily high or low. You could also be on the daily at this point. It's still clear. Same thing though. We would have to see both pairings confirm daily trend changes for DOT to remain a lead bull. As we know, we want to see the spotlight with the BTC pairing doing the same thing as the US dollar pairing in the same trends. Mana. So Mana has started daily consolidation. We're going to talk about bears here shortly and where bears are going to be looking for their entries. So there was an entry opportunity on Mana last night, and that was a 4-hour head and shoulders. So we've got left shoulder, head, helicopter that is too low, right shoulder, and it confirmed, but it has confirmed with zero follow through. So what does a trend change to the bears with zero follow through mean? It means zoom out and scout a potential bull flag. Right now, Mana is a possible 12-hour bull flag. So we could see the head and shoulders developing last night. It has followed through. It has allowed for bears to position themselves. It's the ideal top fish. I mean, look at the resistance, 136. We topped out at 134s, rejected from resistance and rolled over. So this is the kind of setup where if I'm in a bear position, I've definitely taken some profit. And at this point, I would let this play out a little bit because we could see another leg down here, but well aware that it's a possible 12-hour bull flag forming. And if I wanted to make a bull entry for a potential 12-hour bull flag, again, I have to have more confidence in the NASDAQ. We have to close strong there if I would be looking for a 12-hour bull flag on Mana. But other bearish entries at this point, really just being patient and watching the NASDAQ. That's really what it boils down to. If we top out on the bounce in the NASDAQ, then I would be looking to be an aggressive bear in crypto altcoins looking for daily consolidation. But right now I'm seeing enough out of the bulls in the broader market that I'm saying, well, I think we might be about to confirm that inverse head and shoulders for further daily bounce follow through, which again for me would mean be more patient as a bear. So Mana it did confirm the head and shoulders, but it is remaining a lead bull. We've got the 12-hour bull flag attempt on the BTC pairing. So Mana is still a lead bull, even though we did confirm a 4-hour head and shoulders pattern. And we know that a 12-hour high or low is the most likely scenario on both of these pairings. Just like we knew it was the most likely scenario on Bitcoin. Same thing. Most likely scenario. It's just a question of, is it going to be a bull flag? And if it's not, still going to look for the 12-hour high or low, but at that point we'll watch for the potential equilibrium. And what helps us determine those probabilities of which it's going to be is our fib retracement. And I would say anything above 382 keeps that bull flag in play, and that bull flag is still in play at this point. So bulls are positioned real well if the NASDAQ confirms the inverse head and shoulders. If Bitcoin heads back up to 31.4, we'll be looking for a 12-hour bull flag on Mana. If the NASDAQ fails resistance, inside bar breaks bear tomorrow, then it very likely is not a 12-hour bull flag. So I am using the NASDAQ and broader market correlation more so than I ever have trading cryptocurrency in the last 5 years. It is more relevant than it has ever been, especially in this broader market environment. Another side note, we are seeing some strength in some high-risk sectors today. Canadian cannabis and psychedelic sectors are showing some notable strength. Wow, how about that timing? So, what does that mean? That means a little bit more risk on. In my opinion, we're going to be looking for cycle shifts, cycle bottoms to be found in those absolutely crushed sectors when the broader market finds a bottom. I mean, you look at this monthly trend on some of these names, and you know we will eventually bounce here. If you've been in crypto, you certainly know that as well. If you pull back 85%, there will be a bounce eventually. At this point, we're pulling back 90%, but a decent daily bounce is taking place. So again, it's just a sector that I keep an eye on, and TLRY is much stronger today, but a sector that I keep an eye on with crypto in mind. Because again, highest risk, highest reward sectors in markets: cannabis, psychedelic, crypto. There's regulatory uncertainty. There is uncertainty about the future potential and how significant it could be. So I do view them all together, and I will be watching to see if the broader market putting in a temporary bottom leads to more risk on in these sectors, which in my opinion would lead to more risk on in crypto. Still battling this resistance on the NASDAQ. No break yet, but we are right there. It's a hard-fought battle at this level. It's a potential rising wedge. If we do not break this high of the day, we're going to reject here and bear break this rising wedge. I almost want to add to my short just because it's a low-risk top fish. I've still got my position. That's good enough. So Luna, aw man, too late. We're gonna look for the 12-hour high or low. It's positioning real nice. Anyways, it's the same setup as Bitcoin over the weekend. 12-hour high or low, most likely scenario, and it's now forming 15-minute trend change. It wasn't a 15-minute falling wedge, but it was the 15-minute time frame indicating the 12-hour high or low was shaping up. Darn. Should have talked about it first. I know someone out there got it. At this point, certainly no chasing, bullish. If you are looking for a bullish entry here, you're hoping we reject from resistance and we pull back for an hourly high or low entry, and then we confirm the hourly trend change for the 12-hour high or low to convincingly be set, and then we look for a 12-hour lower high, anything under 353. So 12-hour equilibrium on watch, 12-hour high or low shaping up, not officially set, but sure looks like it's going to be, and we got a whole bunch of space for an hourly high or low to form when we consolidate from here. It's not always that the 15-minute time frame gives the indication of what the 12-hour is doing, but it definitely happens a good bit and is certainly happening in crypto the past few days. Here's the bull break attempt. It will still be a rising wedge if we do not follow through. And with that bull break, again, we're going to be potentially shaping up. Little 12-hour inverse head and shoulders. There's me stopping out my short. So 12-hour inverse head and shoulders attempt. And again, doesn't this look like a little 12-hour bull flag that Mana is currently forming? The answer is yes. So that's why we're paying attention to the broader market. So this is definitely a bit of a win into the end of the day for the bulls. We still got 90 minutes to go, so need to hold on to this move and not give it back. And now that high of yesterday is coming back into play at 303. So essentially, what the bulls are telling us, or attempting to tell us, is we're not done bouncing just yet. We're still going to look for some follow through. And that would negate a daily bear flag for me if we can see another green day tomorrow. Remains to be seen, though. Still proven to do. Gotta remain skeptical of bulls, because we know the burden of proof is on bulls to shift this sentiment and these clear big picture downtrends. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to interact with you all as this chat is screwy. This is what my screen looks like. Normally I can see you all here, but I don't know what's up. Bit of a bummer. All right, well, we'll just end it there. It's going to be all about the broader market. Do we form a daily inside bar today on QQQ? If yes, what direction does it break tomorrow? Is Mana a 12-hour bull flag? If the NASDAQ is, Mana most likely is. Can Bitcoin recover back to the high and see follow through after an initial attempt failed to see follow through on the break of 31,000? We're still not that strong in Bitcoin. There's still a lot of work to do. The high of Friday was 31,000. QQQ right now is 0.5% from the high of Friday. Bitcoin is 3% from the high of Friday. So it does still have a little bit of a bearish correlation. And again, you can look at it by using our ratio charts and typing in BTC USD divided by QQQ. Or let's just use the NASDAQ because it trades longer hours. And what do we have? A 12-hour equilibrium showing us relative strength. What is this showing us? The same way that we do alt BTC pairings for clues, Bitcoin divided by the NASDAQ can give us clues. Bitcoin broke to the higher high. Bitcoin NASDAQ did not. That's a little bit of a red flag. We have to see this 12-hour equilibrium break bull to have continued bounce confidence. I'm glad I looked at this chart because it's a nice clear equilibrium, and this is going to be important for me as I make decisions from here over the next couple of days. So we have a bearish correlation to the NASDAQ at the moment. If we break this bullish, that will shift back to a bullish correlation with the NASDAQ, and that has to happen, in my opinion, for confidence for the bulls. I'm done talking. I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure and watch these daily market videos that I put out because, again, it's more relevant than it has ever been. And what I'm talking about in the market, you can definitely apply to cryptocurrency as well. And there's a lot of things that we're watching. We're watching the dollar, the 10-year yield. We're watching the VIX, all these pieces of the puzzle. I appreciate you tuning in. Hope you had a great weekend. Don't forget to do some good things. And I'll see you next live stream, probably Wednesday. And hopefully the chat is fixed by then.